The entire restaurant went silent the moment the napkin hit her chest. Crystal glasses clinked softly. A violinist near the balcony stopped playing mid-song, and every wealthy guest inside the five-star dining hall slowly turned toward table 16, where one of the most powerful CEOs in Atlanta leaned back in his chair with a satisfied smirk. The young black waitress standing beside him didn't react immediately, didn't yell, didn't cry. She simply looked down at the white napkin lying against her uniform. Then she leaned closer to the billionaire businessman and whispered 3 quiet words into his ear. "I know everything." The color disappeared from his face so fast, it terrified the people sitting beside him. Because suddenly the arrogant executive who controlled billion-dollar companies looked less like a king and more like a man watching his entire empire catch fire. Rain poured against the massive glass windows of the Imperial Crown restaurant. Atlanta's elite filled the dining hall with loud laughter and expensive conversations. Politicians shook hands beside celebrities. Investors toasted million-dollar deals with imported champagne. And at the center of attention sat Victor Langford, founder and CEO of Langford Global Technologies. Business magazines called him. Financial news channels praised him as a genius visionary who rose from poverty to corporate dominance before turning 45. But employees told different stories. Stories about screaming matches, humiliations, firings over tiny mistakes. Victor believed fear created excellence. And tonight, fear followed him into the restaurant like an expensive cologne. "Where's our dessert?" he snapped impatiently while checking his watch. A nervous manager hurried over immediately. "It'll be out in 1 minute, sir. 1 minute ago you said 1 minute. Nobody challenged Victor Langford. Not investors, not employees, not even city officials hoping for campaign donations. Then the waitress arrived. Her name tag read NIA, 27 years old, calm posture, soft voice, professional smile. She carried a silver tray carefully through the crowded restaurant before stopping beside Victor's table. "I apologize for the delay," she said politely. The kitchen corrected the plating to restaurant standards. Victor barely glanced at her. "You people always have excuses." Several executives at the table laughed automatically. Nia remained composed, placed desserts carefully. Then Victor reached for his napkin, wiped his mouth slowly, and tossed the crumpled cloth directly at her chest without warning. "There," he said smugly. "Since serving people seems to be your life purpose." Gasps spread quietly through nearby tables. Even some of Victor's business partners looked uncomfortable, but nobody spoke against him. Nobody ever did. Nia stared at the napkin for 1 long second. The humiliation burned through the room like heat. And still, she didn't lose control. Control. Shoot lose control. Instead, she stepped closer beside Victor's chair and whispered softly enough that only he could hear. "I know everything." Victor froze instantly. Smile vanished from his face. "What did you say?" he whispered sharply. Nia straightened calmly. "Enjoy your dessert, sir." Then she walked away. But Victor no longer cared about the restaurant. Those 3 words struck directly at the secret he spent 12 years burying. Across the table, one executive frowned. "Victor, you all right?" Victor ignored him. His pulse hammered violently now, because there was only one reason those words could terrify him this badly. 12 years earlier, before Langford Global became a billion-dollar corporation, Victor had a business partner named Marcus Reed. Brilliant engineer, quiet man, trusted friend. Together they built the original software system that launched the company. But just before investors arrived, Marcus suddenly disappeared from public view. Official statements claimed he sold his shares and left the industry voluntarily. Unofficially, nobody knew the truth. Except Victor, and apparently the waitress. Victor slowly turned toward the dining room, searching for her again. But Nia had already disappeared into the kitchen hallway. For the first time in years, fear entered his chest. Fear. Inside the employee hallway, Nia steadied herself against the wall. Her hands trembled slightly. Not from fear of losing the job, from adrenaline. For years she imagined confronting Victor Langford. Imagined screaming at him, exposing him publicly, watching his perfect image collapse under truth. But now that the moment finally happened, all she felt was exhaustion. Her mother used to say powerful people survive because ordinary people stay silent around them. Nia decided silence was finished. A co-worker rushed toward her nervously. "Nia, what did you say to him?" "Nothing important. Man could buy this restaurant." Nia gave a faint bitter smile. "Yeah," she whispered. Back at table 16, Victor's thoughts spiraled dangerously. Did she have documents, recordings? Did Marcus talk before disappearing? Victor personally ensured there was no trail leading back to him. Or so he believed. Another executive leaned closer. Victor, investors are waiting for your presentation tomorrow morning. No response. Victor barely heard him, because memories flooded back now whether he wanted them or not. The old warehouse office. Marcus arguing over ethics, threatening to expose financial fraud tied to their early investors. Victor panicking as millions of dollars hung in the balance. Then one terrible night changing everything forever. Marcus vanished 2 days later. Victor spent years convincing himself it wasn't murder, just pressure, just consequences, just business. But guilt never truly disappears. Sometimes it waits quietly until someone whispers 3 simple words across a dinner table. Victor stood abruptly. "I'll be back." The executives exchanged confused looks while Victor stormed toward the kitchen hallway. Employees immediately moved aside when they recognized him. Most people feared powerful men in expensive suits. But tonight Victor himself looked hunted. He finally spotted Nia near the service station organizing glasses. "Who are you?" he demanded quietly. Nia didn't turn around immediately. "Funny," she replied calmly. "You never asked my name before throwing things at me." Victor stepped closer. "What do you know now?" She faced him directly. Up close, Victor noticed something strangely familiar about her eyes. Something unsettling. "You should lower your voice," Nia said softly. "I didn't want your investors hearing this conversation." Victor's jaw tightened. "Answer me." Nia studied him silently for a moment before speaking. "My father was Marcus Reed." The world seemed to stop moving. Victor actually staggered backward slightly. "Impossible. Marcus Reed had no daughter, at least none Victor knew about." "You're lying. Mother kept us hidden after he disappeared." Victor stared at her speechless. Victor stared at her speechless. Slowly, horrifying realization spread across his face, the eyes, the voice. He looked exactly like Marcus. Nia folded her arms quietly. "You remember him now, don't you?" Victor swallowed hard. Of course he remembered. Every single day. "What do you want?" he asked carefully. "Want? Money? Public apology? You really think everything has a price because yours did?" Victor's expression darkened. "You have no idea what happened back then." "No," Nia replied coldly. "I know exactly what happened." Her voice remained calm but sharp enough to cut glass. "My father built your company beside you. Then he threatened to expose fraudulent investor accounts connected to illegal overseas transfers." Victor looked around nervously. "You need to stop talking." "Or what?" Employees nearby pretended not to listen while clearly hearing every word. Victor lowered his voice further. "Your father made choices." Nia's eyes hardened instantly. "And you made sure he paid for them." Silence, heavy silence. Victor realized something terrifying in that moment. Nia wasn't bluffing. Somehow she knew details never released publicly, which meant she probably possessed evidence too. And if that evidence surfaced before tomorrow's shareholder merger announcement, Langford Global could collapse overnight. Inside the main dining room, executives noticed reporters beginning to gather outside the restaurant unexpectedly. Apparently someone leaked rumors about a confrontation involving Victor Langford. Phones buzzed everywhere. Social media exploded quickly whenever billionaires lost control publicly. Meanwhile, in the hallway, Victor's confidence cracked further. "What exactly do you have?" he asked carefully. Nia reached slowly into her apron pocket. Victor stiffened immediately. She removed an old photograph, worn edges, faded colors. Victor and Marcus standing together inside their first office, smiling proudly beside early company blueprints. Victor stared at the photo silently. "I found boxes after my mother died," Nia explained softly. "Letters, financial records, journal entries." Victor's heartbeat pounded violently. A copy stored safely now, meaning if anything happened to her, the information still survived. Smart, very smart. Victor suddenly realized this woman planned everything carefully. Not revenge through violence, revenge through truth, the most dangerous kind. "What are you going to do?" he asked quietly. Nia looked toward the crowded dining hall filled with wealthy people praising Victor like a hero, then back at him. "Same thing you should have done years ago." "And what's that?" "Tell the truth." Victor closed his eyes briefly. For years he mastered controlling rooms through intimidation and money. Standing here beside a restaurant kitchen, none of that power mattered anymore. Because guilt recognizes truth instantly, even when hidden beneath billion-dollar success. One executive suddenly approached nervously. "Victor, reporters are asking questions outside." Victor looked exhausted now, older somehow. Nia watched the change happen in real time. The arrogant billionaire who threw napkins at workers minutes ago now looked like a man drowning beneath invisible weight. "You know what's sad?" Nia asked softly. Victor didn't answer. "My father actually loved you like family." That sentence hurt more than accusations ever could. Victor remembered late nights building software together. Cheap pizza dinners. Laughing about changing the world someday, before greed poisoned everything, before fear destroyed loyalty. "I never meant," Victor started quietly. But the words died halfway, because intentions mean very little beside consequences. Nia took a slow breath. "I spent years wondering if exposing you would heal anything." Victor finally looked at her directly. "Won't bring him back." Silence settled between them again. Then outside the restaurant, camera flashes exploded brighter through the windows as reporters pushed closer toward the entrance. The scandal was already beginning. Victor understood that now, and maybe for the first time in his entire career. He looked tired of running from it. Back inside the dining hall, wealthy guests whispered nervously while executives demanded answers. Victor slowly walked back toward table 16. Every eye followed him. The powerful CEO who normally commanded rooms with effortless confidence now carried himself differently, like a man finally cornered by his own past. One investor stood immediately. "Victor, what's happening?" Victor looked down at the untouched dessert sitting beside the crumpled napkin he threw earlier. Then he made a decision nobody expected. "The merger meeting tomorrow is cancelled," he announced quietly. Shock exploded across the table. "What? You can't be serious. Do you realize how much money is involved?" Victor nodded slowly. "Yes," he replied. "I finally do." Outside, reporters rushed forward sensing a massive story breaking apart in real time. And standing near the hallway, and Nia watched silently as one of the most feared CEOs in the country realized something powerful too late. Sometimes the smallest act of disrespect awakens the one person carrying the truth strong enough to destroy everything.